The room was heavy, polished wood, flags standing still behind closed doors. The cameras were gone. The aides were silent. And then it happened. Donald Trump leaned forward, locked eyes with Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney, and called him governor. Not once, not casually, not by accident. Governor. It wasn't a slip of the tongue, it was a signal, a deliberate suggestion that Canada is not an equal partner but an extension, a subordinate, the so-called Be First state. Trump expected outrage. He expected a reaction. He expected Carney to flare up, to give him a headline, to create a viral moment that could dominate the news cycle. Carney didn't blink. No raised voice. No dramatic press conference. No midnight rant. He simply held eye contact, nodded once, and flew back to Ottawa. And within 48 hours, something invisible began to shift. The lights didn't go out. Not yet. But deep inside the energy markets of New England, traders started refreshing their screens faster. Grid operators began running new risk models. Utility executives quietly picked up the phone. Because what happened in that room wasn't just an insult. It was a miscalculation. Behind those closed doors, the United States had delivered an ultimatum. Tariffs on Canadian goods, pressure on border policy, demands for defense spending increases. Trade concessions rewritten in Washington's favor. The White House believed it held all the leverage. Canada exports heavily to the United States. The U.S. market is enormous. The assumption was simple. Push hard enough and Ottawa folds. That's the playbook. Escalate, threaten, overwhelm, force compliance. Trump believed Canada would choose stability over confrontation. He believed Carney would beg to preserve access to the American market. But there was one problem. The leverage wasn't one-sided, and Carney understood that better than anyone in the room. He didn't respond with words. He responded with systems. 48 hours later, the Canadian government announced a Strategic Domestic Energy Review. The language was polite, bureaucratic, technical. It referenced grid reliability, winter demand, infrastructure strain. But the timing was unmistakable. Canada supplies massive amounts of electricity to New York and New England. Hydroelectric power flowing south across transmission lines every single day. The current that keeps Boston's hospitals running. The energy that keeps Wall Street servers humming. The backup capacity that prevents blackouts during extreme weather. Carney didn't cut exports. That would be reckless. He did something smarter. He instructed operators to strictly prioritize domestic supply. Montreal first, Toronto first, Canadian stability first. The United States would receive what remained, and the markets heard it instantly. Receipt number 1. The transmission lines. Look at a grid map of the Northeast. New York and New England are deeply integrated with Canadian hydroelectric supply. Decades of infrastructure tie the systems together. During peak demand, Canadian energy isn't supplemental, it's essential. When temperatures drop, that power surge keeps the grid stable. Without it, operators must fire up older, more expensive oil and gas plants. Plants that cost significantly more to run. Plants that take time to activate. Receipt number 2. The market reaction. Within hours of the announcement, regional energy futures began climbing. Wholesale electricity projections adjusted upward. Natural gas demand models tightened. Grid managers in New England issued internal alerts. Contingency planning accelerated. Risk assessments were updated because even a modest tightening of Canadian exports forces the U.S. Northeast into a higher-cost energy position. And those costs don't disappear. They land on you. Receipt number 3. The political scramble. Governors in Massachusetts and New York began making calls. Not public statements, not press conferences. Calls. Quiet outreach to Ottawa because they understand something Washington underestimated. You cannot negotiate with megawatts. If energy tightens in January, voters don't blame grid architecture. They blame leadership. Now the White House faces a trap of its own design. Backing down would look like weakness. Escalating further risks triggering exactly what markets fear. Tightened inspections at the border, supply chain slowdowns, retaliatory adjustments to energy flow. Each step upward increases pressure. Tariffs raise costs. Retaliation raises costs again. Energy tightening compounds inflation. Voters feel it. The aggressor is boxed in by optics on one side and economic physics on the other. This is where leadership style matters. Trump operates with force, public pressure, shock tactics. He escalates quickly, counting on the other side to blink first. Carney operates differently. He built his career inside financial systems. Central banking, market stabilization, institutional strategy. He understands leverage at the structural level. Where Trump swings a sledgehammer, Carney adjusts a valve. Where Trump dominates headlines, Carney influences plumbing. It's not loud, but it moves real things. Power today is not only military strength, it is supply chains, it is energy infrastructure, it is cross-border integration built over decades. Canada controls a meaningful portion of the electricity stabilizing America's Northeast. That isn't symbolic leverage, that's functional leverage. And by simply enforcing priorities at home, Carney sent a message without saying it directly. Respect sovereignty, or feel the cost. Now let's make this personal. If wholesale energy prices rise in New England, retail rates follow. Heating bills increase. Small businesses pay more for power. Manufacturing margins tighten. If border friction escalates, auto parts slow. Supply chains adjust. Midwest production feels it. Inflation ticks upward in subtle increments that compound. Investment markets react to uncertainty. Bond yields fluctuate. Corporate planning pauses. This isn't abstract diplomacy. This affects your wallet, your job security, your winter heating bill, your retirement portfolio. Two nations with the longest undefended border in the world just tested the limits of their economic integration. And trust, once fractured, does not repair easily. Now 3 paths sit in front of us. Scenario A, quiet resolution. Pressure from utilities, governors, and corporate leaders forces a behind-the-scenes recalibration. Energy flows stabilize, tariff threats soften, public rhetoric claims victory. Privately, both sides step back from the edge. Scenario B, escalation. Inspections slow trade. Energy prioritization tightens. Prices spike sharply during peak demand. Political tensions explode publicly. The economic damage becomes visible in real time. Scenario C, institutional intervention. Courts or regulatory bodies step in, challenging executive authority over sweeping trade measures. The immediate confrontation cools, but the strategic trust between the two countries remains permanently altered. The board is set. The transmission lines are still humming. But now, both sides know exactly where the switch is. So here's the question. Was this simply a defense of sovereignty? Or was it a calculated demonstration designed to expose a bluff? Because if this was a test of leverage, one side just discovered that power isn't measured in speeches. It's measured in kilowatts. And winter is coming.